law of curiosity growth is stimulated by asking why. Some men see things as they are and ask why. Others dream things that never were and ask why not. George Bernard Shaw. When I was a freshman in college taking Psychology 101, everyone in the class was asked to take a creativity test. Much to my surprise and dismay, my score was among the worst in the class. What's so bad about that? You may ask. Lots of people aren't very creative. The problem was that I knew I was going to be speaking for a living, and there are few things worse than a boring speaker. How was I going to overcome this potential deficit to my career potential? I relied on a different quality that I possessed in abundance: curiosity. I've been curious for as long as I can remember. As a teen growing up, I was typical and very similar to my friends in most ways, except one. They loved to sleep in, but I got up early every morning. I was always afraid that if I stayed in bed, I would miss something. I find that funny now, because I lived in a little town in central Ohio where very little happened, so what was there to miss? Yet this practice set me apart from my peers. I began to use this natural trait to collect quotes, stories, and ideas. I thought to myself, the best way to keep from being boring is to quote people who aren't boring. I started looking for ideas that were stated in a funny or clever or inspiring way. But guess what happened after I had done that for several years? I began to ask why their statements and stories were so interesting. Why were they cute? Why did people laugh at them? Why were they innovative? Why did people connect with them? Before long, I was learning from the quotes I was collecting, and I was using the same kind of slant to make my own ideas creative and memorable. It took my communication to a whole new level. And better yet, it stimulated my growth and development. Where does curiosity come from? Was I born with this natural curiosity? Or was it something that was instilled in me? I don't know the answer, but I do know this: I have continued to be curious and to cultivate curiosity all my life. And that's important, because I believe curiosity is the key to being a lifelong learner, and if you want to keep growing and developing, you must keep on learning. Curious people possess a thirst for knowledge. They are interested in life, people, ideas, experiences, and events, and they live in a constant state of wanting to learn more. They continually ask why. Curiosity is the primary catalyst for self-motivated learning. People who remain curious don't need to be encouraged to ask questions or explore. They just do it, all the time. And they keep doing it. They know that the trail to discovery is just as exciting as the discoveries themselves, because there are wonderful things to be learned along the way. Curiosity helps a person to think and expand possibilities beyond the ordinary. Asking why fires the imagination. It leads to discovery. It opens up options. It takes people beyond the ordinary and leads to extraordinary living. People say not to cross a bridge until you come to it, but as someone once said, this world is owned by people who have crossed bridges in their imagination before anyone else has. I believe that's why Nobel Prize-winning physicist Albert Einstein said, all meaningful and lasting change starts first in your imagination and then works its way out. Einstein made his discoveries because he was a curious person. And he valued his curious nature and imagination as his greatest qualities. How to cultivate curiosity. I love curious people. I enjoy spending time with them and conversing with them. Their excitement for knowledge and learning is contagious. I often wonder why more people aren't curious. So many people seem to be indifferent. Why don't they ask why? Are some people simply born without the desire to learn? Are some people just mentally lazy? Or does life become so routine for some people that they don't mind living in a rut, doing the same things day in and day out? Can such people wake up their minds and become more curious so growth becomes more natural to them? I certainly hope so. I believe so. It's why I have written this chapter. And it is why I recommend the following 10 suggestions for cultivating curiosity. 1. Believe you can be curious. Many people fill their minds with limiting beliefs. Their lack of personal confidence or self-esteem causes them to create barriers for themselves and put limitations on how and what they think. The result, they fail to reach their potential, not because they lack capacity but because they are unwilling to expand their beliefs and break new ground. We cannot perform outwardly in a way that is inconsistent with how we think inwardly. You cannot be what you believe you aren't. But here's the good news: you can change your thinking and as a result, your life. Give yourself permission to be curious. The single greatest difference between curious, growing people and those who aren't is the belief that they can learn, grow, and change. As I explained in the law of intentionality, you must go after growth. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom will not seek you out. You must go out and acquire it. The best way to do that is to remain curious. The single greatest difference between curious, growing people and those who aren't is the belief that they can learn, grow, and change. 2. Have a beginner's mindset. The way you approach life and learning has nothing to do with your age. It has everything to do with your attitude. Having a beginner's mindset means wondering why and asking a lot of questions until you get answers. It also means being open and vulnerable. If your attitude is like that of a beginner, you have no image to uphold and your desire to learn more is stronger than the desire to look good. You aren't as influenced by preset rules or so-called acceptable thinking. Management expert Peter Drucker said, "My greatest strength as a consultant is to be ignorant and ask a few questions. That's having a beginner's mindset." My greatest strength as a consultant is to be ignorant and ask a few questions. Peter Drucker. People with a beginner's mindset approach life the way that a child does, with curiosity. They are like the little girl who kept asking her mother question after question. Finally the mother cried, "For heaven's sake, stop asking so many questions." Curiosity killed the cat. After 2 minutes of thinking, the child asked, "So what did the cat want to know?" The direct opposite of people who have a beginner's mindset are the know-it-alls. They see themselves as experts. They have a lot of knowledge, education, and experience, so instead of asking why and starting to listen, they start talking and give answers. Anytime a person is answering more than asking, you can be sure they've slowed down in their growth and have lost the fire for personal growth. Anytime a person is answering more than asking, you can be sure they've slowed down in their growth and have lost the fire for personal growth. 3. Make why your favorite word. Albert Einstein said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning." Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. Never lose a holy curiosity. The secret to maintaining that holy curiosity is to always keep asking why. In my early years as a leader, I thought I was supposed to be an answering machine. No matter what someone asked, I gave direction, exuded confidence, and answered questions with clarity, whether I really knew what I was doing or not. As I matured, I discovered that growing leaders focused on asking questions, not giving answers. The more questions I asked, the better results we got as a team. And the greater my appetite to ask more questions. Today I have a compulsion to pick the brains of the people I meet. I have become a questioning machine. Speaker and author Brian Tracy says, "A major stimulant to creative thinking is focused questions." There is something about a well-worded question that often penetrates to the heart of the matter and triggers new ideas and insights. Most of the time, focused questions begin with the word why. That word can really help you to clarify an issue. And it's important how you ask the question. People with a victim's mindset ask, "Why me?" Not because they want to know, but because they feel sorry for themselves. Curious people ask the question to find solutions so they can keep moving forward and making progress. Scientist and philosopher Georg Christoph Lichtenberg observed, "One's first step in wisdom is to question everything, and one's last is to come to terms with everything. Those are the bookends for continuous growth." Ask why. Explore. Evaluate what you discover. Repeat. That's a pretty good formula for growth. Never forget, anyone who knows all the answers is not asking the right questions. 4. Spend time with other curious people. When you think of curiosity, growth, and learning, do you think of formal education? I think in the early grades curiosity is encouraged, but after that, it's not. Most formal education steers people toward answers rather than questions. If you went to college, how many times did you hear a professor ask students to hold their questions until later so he could get through his notes or complete the syllabus? The emphasis is often on information over inquiry. So do you find an attitude of openness and inquiry in the corporate world instead? Usually not. Most corporations don't try to stimulate curiosity either. Jerry Hirschberg, in his book The Creative Priority, Putting Innovation to Work in Your Business, writes, "No one in a corporation deliberately sets out to stifle creative thought. Yet, a traditional bureaucratic structure, with its need for predictability, linear logic, conformance to accepted norms, and the dictates of the most recent, long-range, vision statement, is a nearly perfect idea-killing machine. People in groups regress toward the security of the familiar and the well-regulated. Even creative people do it. It's easier. It avoids the ambiguity, the fear of unpredictability, the threat of the unfamiliar, and the messiness of intuition and human emotion. Point 1. So what must you do to cultivate curiosity and stimulate growth? You must seek out other curious people. A couple of years ago, Margaret and I went to Jordan on vacation. We love history and art, and for years we'd heard and read about Petra, the ancient city carved out of sandstone. If you've seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you may remember the facade carved in stone that contained the passage to where the Holy Grail was hidden. That scene in the movie was filmed outside the treasury in Petra. When we visited Petra, we walked for miles. At that time, I needed knee replacement surgery, so I found the experience to be difficult and painful. By lunchtime, I was exhausted and the pain in my knee was excruciating. While we ate, the guide told us there was one more beautiful place to be seen cut in the rock. It was on the next mountain, and we could go see it, but we would have to go on our own. Most people opted out. Like me, they were tired. I said no to the experience as well. But as we sat and ate lunch and the few who decided to make the trip prepared to leave, I started to have second thoughts. They were curious and excited about going, and their excitement started to stimulate and inspire me. My old curiosity kicked in and I couldn't stand the thought of missing something, so Margaret and I decided to join the group. It took us an hour to get up the mountain and 2 hours to get back down, but it was worth it. I didn't even mind having to spend most of the evening back in our hotel room soaking my knee. Being around people with great curiosity is contagious. I know a few better ways of cultivating and sustaining curiosity. 5. Learn something new every day. One of the best ways to remain curious is to begin each day with a determination to learn something new, experience something different, or meet someone you don't already know. Doing this requires 3 things. First, you must wake up with an attitude of openness to something new. You must see the day as having multiple opportunities to learn. Second, you must keep your eyes and ears open as you go through the day. Most unsuccessful people accept their day, tuning things out, simply hoping to endure it. Most successful people seize their day, focusing in, ignoring distractions. Growing people remain focused, yet maintain a sensitivity and awareness that opens them up to new experiences. The third component is reflection. It does little good to see something new without taking time to think about it. It does no good to hear something new without applying it. I've found that the best way to learn something new is to take time at the end of the day to ask yourself questions that prompt you to think about what you learned. For years I've made it my practice to review my day and pull out the highlights. Remember, experience is not the best teacher, evaluated experience is.